Hi, everyone. It's good to see you. It is Monday. I have had this thing in my brain that I just need to get out of my brain, so I'm going to talk at you for a few minutes about it. Last week, I watched a video from someone who was talking about hope and how hope is not just a feeling, but it's a choice. It is a decision we make. It is a series of actions. And I think that is all right on with where I am about what hope is about. But he signed off his video, and I'll share this when I post this to my page. He signed it off with defiance till death. And it turns out that this is this guy's handle on YouTube. It's kind of his rallying cry. But I have been thinking about that phrase, defiance till death, ever since hearing it. And it connected something in my mind, thinking about that phrase that Jesus uses in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, where he says, "Take up your cross and follow me." And we have understood that in a lot of different ways. The idea that Jesus went to his death, the things that he did, said, that he preached were so radical. I have often said that I don't know whether Jesus' death was necessary to sort of bring about some kind of salvation for us, but it certainly was inevitable. Preaching the things that he did, responding with radical love. There's really only one way that story could end, with the powers of the world being as they are. And so when he was telling his followers to take up their cross and follow, I wonder sometimes, what did they hear in that? They certainly saw people crucified at this time. This was the way that the state put people to death. But how do we hear that now? How do we hear that as people, whether we are followers of Jesus or not, people who want to do the right thing, people who are watching the destruction in Gaza, who are, becoming inured to mass shootings that happen all the time, to uh, assaults on democracy, human rights violations, assaults on the truth itself. What does it mean for us to take up our cross and follow? And I think one of the ways that we often hear that phrase, "take up your cross and follow me," is that this ends with the giving of our lives. We should be willing to give our lives to something. And I do believe that there are things worth fighting for and that are worth giving our lives to. But the problem with, I think, the way we have often heard that phrase in the Christian tradition is that it is still a part of this kind of sacrificial system, that justice demands something of us. We must pay a price, and that's one of the ways that we think about Jesus' death on the cross, is that he paid the price so that we would have forgiveness from God and all of this. And I find that theology problematic in all kinds of ways. The idea that God would demand a payment so that God's perfect justice can be satisfied. I think that there's something really deeply troubling about that kind of a God. Um, and so, what does that mean if we don't bring that kind of sacrificial martyrdom kind of idea to taking up the cross? And there was just something about that phrase, "defiance till death," that triggered in my mind this idea of taking up the cross. And what I realized, and what I kind of glimpsed anew as I was thinking about this phrase, and as I was um, listening to myself kind of ruminate on this, is the idea that, Jesus went to the cross at the end of this consequential ministry that he had, and he died on that cross without having seen his work completed. He died with so much still yet to be done, to so much still to be accomplished, right? Even if you follow that kind of traditional Christian theology of that the death and resurrection of Jesus accomplished something, um, that didn't happen during his earthly life. His earthly life ended without that new world that he was here to help us see more clearly. And I've been thinking about that as we are faced with so many problems and issues that we struggle with and that we're trying to make a difference in and trying to know what is the next right thing to do in the face of so much that we're facing. And the way I'm hearing take up your cross and follow me differently right now is, what if the work that I am here to do, that I'm here to participate in, isn't going to be accomplished in my lifetime? What if taking up my cross means facing the inevitability that I will get to the end of my life, whenever that is, without having seen the things accomplished that I am working hard for, that all of us are trying to give ourselves to? And even more, kind of to the point, what would I do differently? What am I called to do differently if that is what taking up the cross means? That the end of our life comes and we will still be in the midst of a mess. And that may seem really kind of depressing. Um, but for me, I have wondered whether there's something liberating in that. That we are not called to give ourselves in a kind of a martyrdom or a payment, but to say we are part of a story and the work of justice and the work of liberation, which frankly has taken a major beating right now, and we won't see it fulfilled, and that is okay. And it puts our own work in perspective to say, um, if Jesus can reach the end of his life and still have that work unfulfilled, and we look around and it's still unfulfilled, we see a hope of it. We see glimpses of it. We hear the words and the promises and all of the things that he offered. But we're not going to see it, and I'm not going to see it, and you're not going to see it. And so in this really grievous moment that we're in, is there some kind of, I don't know if to call it good news, but comfort in the idea that if this is what Jesus experienced, we experience that too, this lack of completion, and that there's something really comforting in that. And it sets us free from the anxiety, not that we don't want to alleviate suffering right now, but to set our yardstick differently and say, we may be in this terrible period for quite a while, longer than any of us may even be around to glimpse, but that's the nature of the work. That's the nature of what it means to take up our cross and follow, that we will get to the end, and it won't be the end at all. It'll be continuing. The work will continue. The work will continue after us. And that doesn't absolve us from the work, but it gives us a greater sense of clarity of our powerlessness, but also the hope that we know that this is bigger than all of us. And I don't know, I find that really oddly, paradoxically comforting. And I offer it to you because it's been rattling around in my head for the past few days. And I hope it offers you something as well. We will see you next time. Would love to hear your thoughts, and thanks for listening. Take care.